Hi everyone, welcome back. Going to do a slightly different post today, addressing another common question that I get asked by clients, which is what causes muscle tension? So I'm going to take a look at probably the four main causes of muscle tension today, and I'm then going to go on to talk a little bit about how different emotions tend to be stored in different parts of the body, causing tension in those areas. So, obviously, tension in the body can be caused by physical conditions, injuries, scar tissue, that kind of thing. But quite often, a lot of the tension that we hold, and certainly a lot of the long-term tension that we hold in our muscles, is due to us storing repressed emotions, things that we haven't dealt with. And these can be things from, many years ago, from our childhoods, or possibly even things that we've maybe blanked out from our minds. If not dealt with, this kind of blockage of energy can then result not only in muscle tension, but also in chronic health conditions. So it's really important to try and address, not only muscle tension, but, any sort of emotional feelings that you kind of hold in. It's really important to kind of try and release those in whatever way works for you. So as I say, four main sort of areas of four main causes of muscle tension have been identified in terms of emotional muscle tension, rather than sort of being caused by a physical medical condition. So the first one of these is social conditioning. Now, from early childhood, we are conditioned by our parents, other family members, friends, society as a whole, schools, and certain beliefs are reinforced. So, this obviously will sort of differ according to people's cultures, people's, general backgrounds, what their parents believe, etc. Now, the reinforcement of certain beliefs that we are led to believe as children will make us acceptable to society. These actually can cause muscle tension. So an example would be, when boys grow up and, if they get upset about something, they're told, come on, stop crying, big boys don't cry, So they grow up thinking that if they're sort of vulnerable, if they show how they feel, if they show when they're upset, that somehow they're not going to be viewed as a man, or, and that it's not going to be acceptable by society. So they grow up suppressing these emotions, which then can manifest as physical tension. The next cause is trauma. Now, I've talked a bit about this previously in my videos about domestic abuse, PTSD, and also in the yoni massage video. So basically, when emotions associated with any kind of trauma are not addressed, it can lead to chronic stress, PTSD, and this can be the case whether it's sort of deliberate long-term abuse, or maybe a one-off, accidental trauma, such as a car accident. Now, when we repress stress, anger, grief, they end up being stored in the body as muscle tension. And this can then again lead to other health issues, things like fibromyalgia, digestive disorders, all these kind of stress-related conditions. Now, the third cause that's been identified is psychological tension. So any perceived anxiety, frustration, sadness, anger that we then attach ourselves to and that we take seriously, and why shouldn't we? Because, it's making us feel a certain way. But this can lead to further negative thoughts and start this kind of cycle, which can result in muscle tension. And we see this cycle in depressed people. Once you have those first sort of few negative, it becomes harder and harder to kind of get yourself out of that cycle and have positive thoughts. But these sort of these things that happen that cause us this psychological tension, it could be something. It could be something severe like bereavement, but it could be something really simple like being, stuck in traffic on a motorway for like a few hours, and not moving, and you're like trying to get somewhere for a certain time, and then you get more and more wound up and frustrated and stressed. That can cause you then to have like physical muscle tension. And so then the fourth cause is things like environmental stressors and habits. So this could be something like poor posture or sleeping position, or what your job is. All these things can increase the likelihood of tension because our muscles don't always have the opportunity to get rid of that tension. If you have a desk job, for example, and you're hunched over a computer, all day, every day, you're not really going to get enough of a break, to kind of ease these muscles off and relax those shoulders. Because before you know it, you're going to be back in work the next day and they're going to be tightening up again. Now, obviously, we've mentioned that muscle tension, due to repressed emotions, can cause all sorts of, physical issues. And so some of the more common ones of those will be things like certainly joint pain and obvious tension in the muscles. It could be mood disorders, and depression, insomnia, often because you're sort of laying awake worrying about things, and anxiety, headaches and migraines, maybe palpitations and chest pain, which again arise from that anxious state. It could be skin problems, nausea, maybe asthma and hay fever, or even, period problems, dysmenorrhea, digestive issues, things like fibromyalgia as well. So, and that's only some of them. So, quite a wide range of physical issues that can be brought about, from sort of repressed emotions and anxiety. And, these can also be things such as sexual dysfunction or addictive behaviours, which can then really impact on your social relationships as well as your physical health. So I guess, the moral of this is, try and deal with those emotions, find some sort of outlet, you know, to deal with them before they get that far. So now, many of us suffer from chronic pain on a daily basis, and I will be doing a video in the future on chronic pain. And certain areas, as we know, you know, have a tendency to hold, you know, tension caused by certain emotions, a lot more easily than others. So I'm now going to talk about how certain repressed emotions tend to manifest themselves in certain areas of the body, particularly the back and shoulders. So shall we work our way down? I think would probably be easier. So the first one we're going to look at is neck tension. So things like feelings of fear and repressed self-expression, you know, not being able to really express yourself and what you feel about things. So if we think in terms of chakras, you know, at the neck you've got your throat chakra, which allows us to communicate clearly and express ourselves. So if this expression is repressed, it may cause tension to be stored in this area and all around the neck. So, you know, and due to, you know, the vulnerability of this area, and particularly following abuse or in cases of PTSD, any trust issues or fear may manifest itself in the neck as a response to perceived danger. And certainly, you know, that's something that I've experienced in the past. You know, I've talked in my video about domestic abuse and PTSD, you know, that my big trigger until I finally addressed it last year was, you know, my biggest figure was people touching around my neck. And certainly I would say that sort of trust issues that I had and feelings of fear were very much, you know, related to neck tension. Okay, so then moving down into the shoulders, you know, this will come about often as a result of sort of burdens and responsibilities, and repressing those kind of feelings. You know, most of us in some way have social or emotional responsibilities. Quite often, you know, we take in the pain and stress of others, of those that we love, or maybe we're carers, you know, and this can then really weigh us down to the point where we literally carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. And, you know, and then we get all sorts of tension around that shoulder area. Moving down into the upper back. So this is where we have physical tension that tends to come about as a result of things like grief, and sadness. Any unexpressed sadness, heartbreak, loss, all can be stored as tension around that, you know, upper back area. And this makes sense because, again, looking at the chakras, we've got the heart chakra, which is all about, you know, expressing love, receiving love. You know, so if we've lost someone close to us, that would absolutely make sense. Okay, so then moving down to the middle back, And if we think, so this is coming down to around where you have the solar plexus chakra, which basically channels confidence and self-expression and personal power. So if you're not feeling very confident, you lack, self-confidence, and you've got poor self-esteem, tension can build up in the muscles of the middle back, and that can come about through feelings of insecurity and feeling hopeless and unsupported. Anything that just kind of makes it sort of more harder for you to really express yourself, and feel good about yourself. That will all manifest itself in the mid back. And then moving down into the lower back, where we approach the sacral chakra, which channels emotions and sensuality. Any, repressed feelings of, again, low self-esteem, shame, unworthiness, guilt, even feelings of sexual inadequacy are likely to cause muscle tension in the lower back. And going back to our causes of muscle tension, these are all feelings that are very much associated with, abuse, whether it be domestic abuse or even abuse from childhood. Maybe if you've had parents that have been quite neglectful, that can bring about a lot of feelings of, shame and, feeling not worth anything. So these will manifest themselves as tension in the lower back. Now, then, if we just come round to the stomach, so again, near the solar plexus, any inability to express emotions at all, can cause physical tension around the stomach. And this is where it starts to have impact on the digestive system, causing, physical issues there. So if you have any difficulty in processing emotions, particularly negative emotions, your stress levels are going to build, you get anxious. And that's when, you'll find that if you already have a condition as well, maybe something like IBS or Crohn's or colitis, these are all things that when you're feeling really anxious, they usually flare up. So that would, that kind of really confirms that an inability to express emotions. And when we sort of hold things in and get ourselves really stressed, we're going to store that tension around the stomach area. Okay, and then we're just going to sort of go down in towards the legs. On the inner thighs, it's thought that a fear of vulnerability will manifest itself as physical tension on those inner thighs. When we are presented with a danger of some description, the automatic response is that when the body goes into that fight or flight response, the automatic response usually is to run. So when we suffer anxiety and we find it difficult to open up and trust people, this may result in some tension in the inner thighs. Likewise, the outer thighs can also hold some physical tension. And this is usually seen to be due to feelings of frustration and impatience. So if you tend to do things very quickly without thinking, or if you're frustrated maybe with your personal or work life, this energy can cause tension in those outer thighs. And then finally, you may have seen in one of my other videos that actually up to a third of the body's tension can be stored in your bum, which a lot of people don't realise. But quite often feelings of anger in particular are stored here. If we don't have an outlet for that anger, then this negative energy builds up and causes tension around those gluteal muscles, literally becoming a pain in the bum. So, next time you're angry, just try and stop and think, am I clenching my bum? And I guess that will tell you. So that's really it for this video, just to give you a bit of an idea as to, other reasons why you may be holding tension in a certain area. As I say, it's not always down to, maybe a physical health issue, that's causing it. Or even straightforward stress. It could be specific feelings that, perhaps you need to address. So as always, feel free to subscribe to my channel for more videos. You can comment down below or contact me through my Facebook or Instagram. I will try very, very hard to answer any questions you have. But for now, that is all from me. So until next time, take care and